Keegan Joker series is in development. At least that is what some site tried to tell us, or sell us, I should say, this week. Set between the Batman Part 2, which is still being written, and the Batman Part 3. Reeves was supposed to be working on it as well. Supposed to, because James Gunn shot, pun intended, it down this morning. There's absolutely no truth in this, unfortunately. This is the review of Champions, and I'm your host, Grandmaster. With me is a powerful panel made up of the finest champions Cigar has to offer. Let me introduce them to you. Voice only, we have Lokismom. How are you?
Well, I've been better, but I'm doing okay.
Oh, a little bit under the weather? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, nothing to do with the weather.
Okay, let's not get into that. We have, of course, the original Mr. Taylor first. How are you?
I am outstanding.
And last but not least, showing his beautiful face on camera, Merv. How are you, man?
Fantastic.
Good to hear. Today we're going to talk about episode 7 of The Penguin, called Top Hat. But before we do, I want to ask you all to help us out. Like and share this video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and join our forum at cigar.freeforms.net. Set up an account, click on the link in the description. And yeah, you can join us in our shows if you want to. We would love it if you do that. Consider this your final warning. After this point, the spoilers are incoming. So if you haven't seen this week's episode yet, do that first and then check out our review. Well, after that cliffhanger in episode 6, Oz finds his mother taken by Sophia, and he wants to cut a deal with her. Does he? I don't know. Let's talk about it. Merv, quick thoughts on episode 7 of The Penguin.
Quick thoughts. I think this episode was good TV that moved the plot along in entertaining fashion. It had decent amount of action and interesting dialogue. But this is probably the episode that I've had the most complaints about, I guess, afterward. I thought there was quite a few examples of plot armor and conveniences that were happening that just really felt out of the normal for this show and the characters within it. Still enjoyed it, but it was definitely more of a mixed bag episode on my end. Didn't quite reach the high standards that the previous 6 or 7 episodes, whatever we're on now, had met.
No, okay. We'll talk about that at length later. Lokismom, you were already saying the show was a little bit or declining, if I may say so, if that it's a big word for what you actually meant, but still, do you agree with Merv that this decline for you continue?
Well, as far as this particular episode, I thought it was very well done. I mean, I'm not catching up on. I'd be interested to see what Merv has to say about the plot holes and whatnot, but I didn't really catch any of it myself. But it did make me want to think, why am I bothering watching this loathsome piece of absolute human garbage that killed his own brothers?
Yeah.
I'm having problems with that part. Otherwise, the episode was excellent. The acting was great. I mean, I like that they did the flashback with Oz as a child, and now we got the full picture of Jack and Benny. What happened to them, and I'm wondering if they're really still alive, because I noticed at the very end he didn't see any skeletons or anything down in that hole, but I'll go into that later.
Yeah. Taylor, what did you think of episode 7?
Well, I thought it was very good. It had some powerful moments. It had some oh wow moments, and it definitely set up for a big finale. So I thought it was very good.
Yeah. Okay. So you have no complaints at all.
Nothing I can think of at the moment.
Okay. Well, we'll get back to you. So, Lokismom, I actually had a vibe during this whole episode, and it was all involved with flashbacks of Oz as a child and his mom. I thought there were some creepy dynamics going on there. Do you agree?
So, I'm sorry, what was that last word you said?
Creepy dynamics.
Oh yes, yes, creepy. Well, I mean, when Sophia confronts his mother, and how did you twist him up? Because she was twisted up by her own father, her own family. So she's wondering what she did to Oz to make him be that way, to be as evil as he is, and just out of her. I mean, she's sort of having some existential crisis here. She's starting to realize what she's done, and I don't, how she's going to work through that. I think it's going to be very interesting. Yeah, yeah, it was, very creepy. Again, I think uh, the actress, I think her name's O'Donnell or O'Connell, I think it's her last name. Yeah, she is wonderful. I think we saw a lot of her grit and her toughness, but we haven't seen her be twisted. I want to see any more flashbacks of what maybe that dynamic between them, because you didn't really see it in this episode. She looked like a great mom. She was just raising 3 boys on her own, working hard, and it just then her life was shattered after her 2 sons disappeared and assumed dead, I guess, or maybe they were found drowned in a culvert or something. I don't know, but I think it was interesting because he talked. He's mentioned his brother several times throughout the series, and it's always and we think, well, that's what twisted him up. He saw his, because he actually says they were lost to the streets. Well, of course, he's the one who lost them to the streets. Not, that's very, I just really, what, like I said before, whatever sympathies I've had for Oz at this point are totally gone.
Yeah, it was an episode where you are reminded that Oswald Cobb is a villain, a Batman villain, not so much Batman, but he's a villain. He's an evil person. He's a criminal. He's a lowlife, and this episode reminded us of that.
I mean, the people around him's not much better, but it's everybody's rotten in this. I mean, I've yet to see one person that hasn't been corrupted. Poor Vic, I think he was, he I think we can maybe assume he was an innocent and sucked into this, but I think the others are just the worst of the worst humanity has to offer.
Yeah, it's hard to root for anyone in this show. Still Team Sophia, by the way, but that's a different story. Taylor, any particular highlights in this episode for you, since you loved it a lot?
I'm usually not a big fan of flashback scenes, but they did execute the flashback in this really well. And like I said, the shots of that door with the water coming out first at the bottom, and then the water's coming out at the middle, and they're pounding on it and they're screaming, and then the water's coming out at the top, and there's no more sound. It's silent. That was pretty powerful, and it hit really hard. And then, of course, cutting back and forth to Oz at home, looking out the window at the rain, knowing, I mean, there's been a lot of chat online about, oh, he didn't mean to kill him. I don't think he cared one way or the other when he closed that door. I think he thought, and this is of course my just interpretation of the acting and all, he closed that door, he knew it was raining, he knew that was a flood drain. If it kept raining and they drowned, I don't think he cared. If it didn't keep raining and they didn't drown, I don't think he would have cared that much about that.
No.
He's a sociopath, if that's the right word.
Yep,
He doesn't give a rat's rear end about any of it.
Yeah.
So that was a big scene. The actress playing the mother in the flashbacks, wow, was she really good at playing that woman? Playing the other actress playing that woman. What?
Emily Mead is her name.
Okay, well, she did a great job. She's very good at portraying that same character as another actress was doing. And then the part in the tunnel there at the end where they're supposedly going to be making the trade, and the van or the car pulls up into the underground there, and they really had us on edge of whether he's going to find his mother's body in the back of that thing, or is he going to find a bomb? And we all, and everyone suspected it might be a bomb, but no one knew which one it was going to be. At least, and I didn't know. My mind kept going back and forth.
Yeah, mine too.
It's his dead mother or it's a bomb.
And actually,
And of course,
it would the mother-brother parallel would have been nice. Sophia's brother was in the back of a car, so it would have been
right.
kind of poetic if his mother ended. But there's still episode 8. Could still happen.
Exactly. And then, of course, it ended up being a bomb. And of course, the mother of all ironies, he saves himself by diving into that same storm drain where he had murdered his own brothers. Didn't even shout a warning to his guys either. Didn't even say it's a bomb and then dive in. No, he just took off, dove in there. One of his guys even came up to see what was going on. So I'm assuming all of them are dead. There may be a few survivors, but judging the way that the shot of the street caving in from below, I don't think there's many survivors down there. And then, of course, when Oz climbs out, that was a pretty powerful scene as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, again, a lot of really powerful scenes. I mean, sure, it wants to pretend it's not a comic book show, but it's a comic book show, so of course there's going to be some contrivances and some over the top stuff. I hope it just gets more and more over the top, and when he starts dealing with Batman at some point, whether it's in a movie or another season or whatever. But I really well acted, really well directed. They spared no expense on this show, as far as I can tell. I mean, by its nature, it's not a super expensive show, but where they need to spend money, they weren't afraid to spend money.
Yeah.
So overall, yeah, I'm very pleased with it.
Yeah. We get later to a rating, and then we know how pleased you are. Look, before I go to Merv, Lokismom.
Yes. When he came out of that was a great scene, by the way. The whole thing just shocking, but yeah, when he comes crawling out of the debris, it made me think of the old meme that the cockroaches will survive the atomic war. He really is a cockroach. I mean, you can't kill him. He just keeps coming back.
Well, yeah, that's true. Merv, you were talking about like conveniences and plot devices or whatever. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. Just the first one. I know we ended on a cliffhanger, and I didn't really need to see that scene with Sophia and Vic and Mama Penguin, but I don't understand why she left Vic alive. Like, there's no reason to leave Vic alive.
So you can have a Deus Ex Machina in the last episode.
That's what I mean. So that bugged me because there's no reason for Sophia to leave him alive. I get she whacked him in the head with a crowbar, but I don't even understand why she left before Sal came. I know she was on her own. She doesn't know when Oz is going to show up, but it seems like hours have passed since it's daylight at this point. By the time Sal does show up, it all felt a little like, okay, it's kind of convenient that he's not dead, and then it's convenient that it took this long for any of Sophia's backup or whatever to show up, and now it's convenient that they're not just killing Oz on sight. There was a lot of conveniences, I felt like, in that even in the first scene post flashback opening. Another one that bugged me was, and I suppose I don't really know Sal's character enough to know if he would be this dumb, but he went into Oz's base of operations with like 4 guys, and I'm like, even if you assume all these guys are just like drug mules that are making all these drugs, you got to assume there's going to be more than a handful of guns down there, are all going to be pointing at you in theory. I don't know why he would go down there in the first place, let alone to go down there shorthanded, essentially. And exactly what I expect to happen, which is Oz found a way to turn the tables just, by a pure happenstance. And then another one that bugged me was Sal's heart attack mid-fight. I didn't feel like that was set up at all. I get him getting worked up, especially he's been through a lot. He got stabbed in the gut. His whole family's dead, and he's out for revenge. But like in his moment of physical superiority over Oz, he just keels over dead, and that just did not land for me whatsoever. It kind of spoiled that whole any justification for that fight happening.
Purely based on physique, you would expect Oz to get a heart attack and not Cell.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm saying this as a fat person. I'm not fat shaming Oz in any way.
Absolutely. But
so can sleep.
And that's actually one of my pros for this episode was that Sal was actually winning the fight, because when you cast Clancy Brown in a role, if he's not winning a physical altercation, then you're doing something wrong, because he's a massive guy and he creates a massive presence. And I don't care how old he is, he should be winning the fight. And he was, until his heart gave out, which, I saw the behind the scenes, and they said that, like, he's all heart, so it kind of makes sense that, like, his heart, he's been through all this stuff. It just didn't land for me as well as it could have, even if they had hinted at it or didn't. I don't know how you would have done something. They had 7 episodes or 6 episodes to give me a reason to see this coming, or to feel justified by it happening, but it just felt so random and out of place. Another one that bugged me was Sophia regressing and then catching herself back up in this episode. It just felt like she took a moment, took a step backwards, and then took that same step forward, and is in the same place at the end of the episode after all this, talking to Gia and feeling like she's just falling into the same footsteps her dad was. I don't know how she's different after this episode by blowing everything up, other than she clearly doesn't care about the drugs. She's only out for revenge. That's fine. I got that vibe from episode 1 from her, that she doesn't actually care about the Empire so much as the act of getting revenge on whoever killed her brother. Like this, it didn't feel like any progression happened for her character there. And then probably the last one was just Oz being dumb enough to let Sophia drive a car unchecked into his entire base of operations. I saw a bomb coming from a mile away, and Oz is supposed to be smarter than that. The last 6 episodes, he's been 2 steps ahead. So for him to be like 2 steps behind here just felt really out of place, and just really convenient for the sake of blowing everything up and having that, scene happen. I liked quite a bit about this episode too, but like this episode had more of those small issues like throughout the entire thing, where I didn't really latch on to any of the character progression in this episode whatsoever, or too many conveniences in the plot for me to ignore and just look ahead.
Okay, but do all those small inconveniences or conveniences, depends on your point of view, add up to like, hey, I actually think this episode is severely lacking in quality compared to what we've seen before? Or is it just like, okay, this is just bugging me a little bit, but overall I still very much enjoyed what I saw?
More towards the latter, although I will say, like, just from a writing director perspective, like this takes a little bit of a hit for me. Not terrible. I still enjoyed a lot about this episode. The conversation between Francis and Sophia was a particular highlight. I loved everything at play there, and I loved how Francis's mask of strength just crumbled the second they brought up Oz's brothers, and then she went into a spell and that whole thing. So like there were moments here where it felt like everything was as good as previous episodes. But I just think it was just like too many little things throughout that I do think diminishes my opinion. Maybe not as a series as a whole, but definitely watching this episode, I didn't come out of it as happy as I was in the previous 6 episodes.
Yeah.
For all the reasons I mentioned.
To me, it felt a little bit like they needed to get rid of some things or arrange some things so you can get like the epic finale. It really felt like a setup episode.
Yeah, and even like the fact that Vic is only in the opening scene, like to my thinking brain, that lends itself to like, where was Vic? He's either A, captured by somebody, or B, is in cahoots with Sophia, who she left him alive. And none of those answers make any sense. Now, there's probably some other reason that we don't know yet why he wasn't answering his phone, where he was this whole time. Like, I assume we'll get that revelation in the next episode. But like, to me, that's a big like red flag on Vic. Is like, well, is Vic up to something different? Because there's the way this show has made my brain think, Vic shouldn't have been able to get out of that situation, and he did. And so that just makes me think that somehow he was allowed to. And I know that doesn't make any sense, and I don't know how to justify it. And I think that's kind of the problem I had with this episode, is there's too many things that just didn't make much sense to me based on, where these characters had come from. Like how I'd been watching these moments happen through the previous 6 episodes, and then this one, everything felt a little off. And I didn't know what changed there.
That's fair. Let's just rate this week's episode then. In that case, we're going through pretty fast. Lokismom, can I have your rating?
I'll give it. Yeah, and I'll agree. Now that Merv brought up those points, I can see exactly what he's talking about. And I even. The one with the car, it was like, well, how, that didn't feel right with me. I think if, with Sal, all they would have had to done was just a couple of scenes where he's like grabbing his arm, where he's in prison, or maybe taking a nitroglycerin pill, that we would know it would be logical that he would have a heart attack. All he would have had to done was punched him in that where he stabbed him, and that would have disarmed him enough to work. But anyway, I'm going to give it an 8.
Okay, still fair. Merv?
Yeah, I just wanted to also mention that like the backstory scenes I really enjoyed for the most part. The last one, like the kicker at the end, kind of, or right before, it didn't really do much for me. But the opening scene I thought was really great and really gave a lot of insight into like how the character of Oz comes about, or like his potential inspirations. I assume we're gonna, maybe at some point see him in classic Penguin attire. So him watching that Top Hat movie, and then there was a lot of cool things there. Even his skewed perspective of Rex. How much he talks up Rex. And then to see him in person, you're like, he doesn't even know you existed. You know what I mean? So I thought all that was kind of funny. And fit the character quite a bit. So having said that, I'll give this a 7.5 out of 10. A little bit of a dip for me based on all the reasons I mentioned.
Okay. Taylor?
Yeah, a couple quick observations. Apparently, Fred Astaire is a big influence on Batman villains, because in Folie à Deux, we saw the Joker watching a Fred Astaire movie, and in this episode, the Penguin's watching a Fred Astaire movie. So Fred Astaire is just a criminal mastermind, apparently. And
all that fast footwork.
Following up on Vic, the only thing I can say about where Vic was Penguin told him, "Find me an army." So just as he threw him out the window, basically. So I assume he's out there gathering an army of some sort for the final episode to back up Penguin. We'll see. Vic's an interesting character. I think Vic has completely gone to the dark side. He had his chance to get away and live an honest life, and he chose to go back to Oz and be part of his criminal conspiracies. But we'll see what happens with him. As far as rating goes, I'll give the episode a 9.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I did see Merv's points, but yeah, there's stuff like this going on in every TV series or movie. Sometimes they need something convenient, otherwise they write themselves into a corner, and yeah, they need to get out of it somehow. Merv?
I just want to say I'm basing it on the previous 6 episodes, not every other TV series. So this show has been up here for me, so I'm holding it to that standard. So the fact that I see all this stuff brings it down to here for me. Not, again, it's more like right here, not down here. You know what I mean?
And I think that's completely fair. I think that's completely fair. I mean, if we watch a Marvel show and they do the Skybeam finale, we also mention that and call them out on it. So it's only fair if we do that too with a show we really, really, really enjoyed so far. That will conclude this review of Champions for Top Hat, episode 7 of The Penguin. We hope you have enjoyed our discussion today. If you did, help us out, like and share this review, and subscribe to our channel, and join our forum at Freeforums.net. We would love it if you do that. Next week, we will be talking about episode 8, the season finale. We promise we will discuss Creature Commandos at some point. Whether it's episodical or season review, we still need to decide. And in a few weeks' time, we have a brand new episode of the Star Trek Project. So enough to look forward to. For now, I want to thank you all also on behalf of our champions and wish you to always walk steady. Bye.